Hi everyone, I hope we all had a wonderful new year. This is my analysis of chapter 2 of Rebecca. If you want to see the previous video, it's on my TikTok, but I also have a YouTube channel where I'm posting all of these, so they're easier to find. The link will be in my bio. I also want to say again, there's no spoilers in this analysis video, so if you've read up to chapter 2 of Rebecca, you'll be fine, there's no spoilers. So I think even the second sentence of this chapter here, the past is still too close to us. I think the word us is very important. It unites the narrator with the man that they are staying with. The narrator sees her and the man as a force that can't be reckoned with, a team, inseparable in a way. And this depiction of him here, I think, is quite memorable, especially when we later break on into the book. He is wonderfully patient and never complains, not even when he remembers, which happens, I think, rather more often than he would have me know. So I think there's 3 ways to interpret this. First of all, we can interpret this as the literal truth. This man is actually patient, or the narrator is perhaps romanticizing the whole thing. Maybe he isn't as patient as what he seems. Maybe she just needs to write it down on paper that he is patient to come to terms with what she is dealing with him in this hotel room. And then lastly, there's also the idea that perhaps the trauma this man has probably suffered from what we are gathering in these first 2 chapters is so immense that he's almost gone brain dead in a sense. So this last interpretation can be further emphasized here with the sentence, "In its place a mask will form, a sculptured thing, formal and cold, beautiful, still but lifeless." Even when he does have some form of reaction, he dismisses it. He does not want anything to do with his reaction. He does not want to try and come to terms with what he is feeling. And I think even the word sculptured here, it's meticulously thought out. That is how deep this trauma stems within this man. Formal and cold. Maybe he's trying to be polite, but also I think the coldness of his demeanor contrasts this unity that the narrator feels with him, which I think is quite interesting. And I think after this whole description here, the sentence, "I believe there is a theory that men and women emerge finer and stronger after suffering," it makes me wonder, is that true? Is that true for them in this case? Because they do not seem to be strong or fine. They seem to be miserably suffering. They don't seem to be living at this point. They just seem to be existing. And this sentence here, "the devil does not ride us anymore," implies that the narrator thinks that they have undergone some form of evil and they have now got rid of it, which I think is quite important to note. So here we've got this quite unique sentence. "Happiness is not a possession to be prized. It is a quality of thought, a state of mind." I think this is quite a peculiar sentence, and I don't know if I agree with it. I think Du Maurier, her writing is so impressive, and I think this is what someone who's truly miserable would say about happiness. I think most people who are in the right mind strive for happiness, and it is a possession. It is something that is prized. I don't think you have to try and force yourself to be happy, like it is implied in this sentence here. And once again, the narrator reiterates, "I know we are together, we march in unison, no clash of thought or of opinion makes a barrier between us." And I think, especially because she said this in the last page as well, it kind of makes you think as a reader, is that the case? Or is she just saying that over and over again in the hopes that she will believe it herself? I also thought this statement was just something, a little food for thought. Boredom is a pleasing antidote to fear. I think I agree with it to an extent, especially when you're under stress. Sometimes just sitting down and thinking of nothing is quite pleasing, but it's not the answer permanently, it's only a temporary solution. And then we start to get teleported back in the narrator's thoughts. When she states, "Sometimes old copies of The Field come my way, and I am transported from this indifferent island to the realities of an English spring." I also think the narrator's obsession with English culture is further depicted when she says, "I know the name of every owner of every British moor, yes, and their tenants too. A pure pastime perhaps, and not a very intellectual one, but I breathe the air of England as I read, and can face this glittering sky with greater courage." To me, it sounds like she is romanticising England, and it implies that the best time of her life, the best period, was spent in the English countryside. And she is obsessed, and she is using it as a distraction from this immense boredom she feels in this room. I also think at the bottom of page 8 here there is a very notable character trait about the narrator that we see throughout the entire text. "There was enough food there to keep a starving family for a week. I never knew what happened to it all, and the waste used to worry me sometimes, but I never dared ask Mrs. Danvers what she did about it." I think this is the most important sentence to take from chapter 2. You might ask why. Well, simply because we see the narrator prioritise pleasing other people and not feeling like a disturbance to other people over her own morals. She can disregard her morals if it means that she won't be seen as an interference to others, such as Mrs. Danvers. And of course, the natural follow-up question is, why is that? And we immediately get the answer. Mrs. Danvers would say, "There were never any complaints when Mrs. De Winter was alive." Instinctively, I thought, she is comparing me to Rebecca. Now, something that should be noted, throughout the entire text, the narrator never gets a name, so I will always refer to her as the narrator. It is Rebecca who's named. And I think that's very important because it shows the narrator's obsession and competition with Rebecca and her inferiority in comparison to Rebecca. So perhaps we could say that this people-pleasing comes from the idea of wanting to live up to the expectation of someone else, someone who clearly has already been in the narrator's position and has excelled in it. The narrator feels a great pressure to fill those shoes, and she is willing to disregard her own personality. She is willing to strip herself of her own identity to achieve this. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will talk about chapter 3 soon. Thank you so much.